What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and I'm really excited about this interview tonight because I've seen this man perform at Rock on the Range back in the day, just killing it on the sticks, and got the pleasure of the past year, I'd say, getting to know not just the rocker, but the man, the husband, the father, and the friend, man. And I'm excited to have you on today, man, Mr. Rich Beddoe. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, buddy, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Uh, Glad we can make this happen. It's like we've talked a lot off on the outside, and you know, um, good to get your story out there to the Boondoggle universe now.
I know we become brothers in every other way. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been
that's
a
what I was
long
gonna
time.
say. My I was gonna throw the nickname out there I just recently gave you, Brodo. You
I like
know,
that.
but Rich, I wanted to. Usually, when I have somebody on for the first time, I like to get a little bit of a background and stuff. So, originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I'm always a drummer from a very young age. It's all I can ever remember wanting to do.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what age was it where you discovered like that got that feeling for music and then wanting to just you know beat on
Yeah.
something?
Well, I so many drummer kids would say, but Animal from the Muppet Show is always my favorite character on that show. I literally used to act like Animal, like perch on my couch at home. Parents used to think I was crazy. And then eventually, I was into skateboarding when I was really young, and I guess that's the answer. I wanted to be a pro skateboarder first, and at a very young age, Run DMC Raising Hell record came out, with like the Aerosmith version of Walk This Way on it,
Yeah.
and right away, something about the electronic drums. Back then, I didn't know they were electronic drums. I just, whatever was going on in those records, I was just really drawn to it. And yeah, I started playing, like, again, not knowing they were like these drum machines, but trying to play along to these rap songs, 80s rap songs. And from there, I discovered heavy metal, and it just kind of went, and I was about 10 years old when that all started.
Nice,
So,
nice.
yeah.
And now you mentioned Animal, from the Muppets, and now it's like it kind of makes more sense now. Like when I told you I first seen you performing live at Rock on the Range and the facial expressions. I mean, you look like an animal up there. It's awesome. So that
It's funny because when it comes to my stage sort of, I guess, performance, it was always growing up. I was very nervous getting on stage. So when I first started touring and stuff, I found it easier to literally become another person when I was drumming, and it really just came from stage fright. So I'd sort of put on that mask when I got on stage and then walk off. A lot of times you can't even remember what the hell happened because you're literally like another character for a while. But it all came from just being super nervous.
wow. Okay, that makes sense. And like, so you started playing young. When did you get your first drum kit? Your like legit kit, not just pots and pans and stuff.
I think I was 11 when I got it. Yeah, my parents got me a snare drum at first, and I was enrolled in the drum lessons. And I guess at that age, they don't want to spend all that money on something unless they know that you're gonna, do it for a while. So I think for about a year, I just had a snare drum. I would go to drum lessons, play the drum set, but and Christmas Day a year later, I woke up and there was a shiny drum set waiting in my basement for me. So
Awesome. And then, like, as you went on to like high school and stuff like that, did you form any like bands with your friends and classmates?
yeah, from a very early age, I guess eighth grade, I started a band. Well, I joined a band called Alliance, and it was an all original band. And those guys, when I got into high school, they were all graduating. So all through high school, it was those guys were, out of school and wanting to make it. So we rehearsed and wrote songs every night of the week. So a lot of ways I missed like all the high school parties and stuff. So I would have to after school, go and meet with these guys that were now working full-time jobs, and just every night they were just committed to writing a record and getting signed and all that stuff. And so I played with those guys all through high school, played a bunch of shows with them and recorded a bunch of stuff with them, which I'm gonna have to send you some of it, Bill. It's fun, man. It's really bad, but it's good.
Nice.
But yeah, that went, I guess, till I was about 17 or 18, right out of high school. And then we just started falling apart. We were fighting, and I ended up joining a cover band, and they were one of these bar bands that almost toured. They were playing 5-6 nights a week, but all in different cities. So that was my first experience of traveling. But we would do like 3 sets a night. We had a repertoire of like 100 songs we could pull out at any time. That was really great practice to learn songs, playing different styles of music, and that was really my first road experience. And so from there, I jumped up to Finger 11. I heard that those guys were looking for a drummer, so I went from bar band to my first show with Finger 11 was at a hockey arena in front of like 12,000 people, opening for Our Lady Peace in Canada. It was like a big jump.
Yeah, I'd say that's cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you too. So this was all still growing up in Canada, which where would you grow up again?
It's a town outside. I always just say Toronto because it's easier to say Toronto, but there's a town called Kitchener, about 45 minutes outside of the city. And that's where all the music stuff. Up until a year or so ago, I moved down here to Michigan, but I'm definitely a Canadian guy through and through.
I was going to ask like when you made the move down here, but so you've been basically before officially moving. Now I know you were with Finger 11, you toured, you guys came through the States and stuff. Talk about like some of that.
I mean, for 22 years. Well, yeah, we got signed to a label called Wind Up Records, and they were a brand new label. And the first band they signed was Creed. So Creed had just come out with a song. We'd heard that song, and we went, met them. We got dined and schmoozed by a bunch of labels. We went with this really small label because they seemed to believe in the band. And then right as we went out with Creed, supporting them, and it just went so big and so fast for those guys. We went from playing bars with them to like hockey arenas. And those guys took us out for like 2 years, the first few years of touring. We were always supporting Creed. And that was the beginning, it was like 22 years by the end of me being in the band, like six records, a few live records, toured the world a bunch. And so really when I think back, even though Saint Asonia was my band after that, really Finger 11 is and was my band. When I think about my past and my identity, definitely think of myself as the former drummer of Finger 11 and the guy that played in Saint Asonia for a minute.
So then, you mentioned Saint Asonia, and that's when I saw you for the first time. You had that journey with Finger 11. You're coming through and networking and playing a lot of tours and I guess getting to know people. But how did that transition from Finger 11 to Saint Asonia go?
Well, we were, as I said, we were in that band for 20-something years, and along the way, a lot of bands came up behind us, and one of those bands was 3 Days Grace. They're from Toronto as well, and we knew those guys since they were like 17 years old, and they always, they're always fans of our band, and blah, blah, blah. Years later, I was starting to have some sort of personal stuff going on with the guys in the band, like you do after 22 years, and Adam, the singer of 3 Days Grace, was my neighbor, and we were good friends. So he sort of abruptly quit 3 Days Grace, and when he did that, I reached out to him and was like, dude, are you okay? What's going on? Because at that time, they were as big as they could be. They were huge. So we started hanging out a little more because he was home, and I was home, and I was sort of letting him know kind of where I was within the band and having some trouble. And before I knew it, me and him sort of joined forces. I guess me and Finger 11 had somewhat of an amicable, how do you say that? Amicable split?
Amicable, yeah.
Amicable. Pretty much, not totally amicable, but looking back, it is what it is. But we were going to start a band together. The same time that he was talking to me about that, he was also reaching out to Mike Mushak from Stained, where those guys were taking a break because their singer was going to start a country career, Aaron. So it was sort of the three of us all were available at the same time, but it kind of came from me and Adam being friends. And Mike, we toured with Stained, Finger 11 had, but I didn't really know him very well. So it was one of those things. We all met up at the studio and we made that record. And then after the record was done, we hired our bass player, Corey. And that was that. But the difference in that band versus Finger 11, I was very much like a hired drummer. Even though we started up the band together, it was really Adam's band. And then when Mike joined forces, it was Adam and Mike's band, you know, business-wise. So I kind of thought I'd be more a part of it in the beginning than I ended up being. But, you know, that's how that went. So, yeah, we toured for a couple of years on it and had a lot of success. And, you know, and here I am today, not playing in that band, but those guys put out a record after me and they're doing great. And, you know, there's a little bit of hurt and bad blood and defensiveness on my part, you know, about not being in that band anymore. But now that time's gone on, you know, I really do wish them the best. And, you know, I've asked to be forgiven and I've forgiven them. And obviously the program that me and you are in is about making amends. And I've had the chance to do that with most of them. And yeah, at this point, I just really wish them all the best, you know, success in the world. So it took a while to say that, for sure. I was very hurt and defensive because I was let go of that band. For a long time, I didn't want to tell anybody that, you know, but it was through my addictions and drugs and drinking, and really, you know, took a toll on myself, my sanity, really, and my playing and everything. And I became a really hard guy to be around. So after we toured that record for a couple of years, I was, you know, told that they'd be looking for another guy for their next record. So looking back on it, I mean, it saved my life, I think, you know, because had I been able to continue on that band, who knows what would have happened to me. I mean, that was a really, really dark place at that point. So I don't know if I'd be here right now. So it was a blessing in disguise. And here we are today. Now I get to know guys like you and, you know, look forward to what the future holds. I don't know what that is right now, but I'm excited about it, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, man. And, you know, I'm glad you opened that door right there for this conversation because, you know, I've heard some of your story where we've met. And, you know, just, I mean, that right there is like part of what's built our friendship. I've told you, you know, just seeing your transparency and humility in the rooms that we've got to know each other and your growth, man, and how much respect I have for you and seeing you as a dad. But, you know, going back to the first time I ever saw you on the stage, you know, that was like your guys' debut, I think, with Saint and Asonia.
Yeah, we had quite the first show. We were booked at Rock on the Range, you know, to be the first band on the main stage. So, yeah, you got to see the very first one.
Yeah, and you know, hearing some of your story and talking about like what you just said too, like, you know, feeling like you had to be somebody else when you came on that stage, you know. Now,
well, in that scenario, I mean, it was that, but it was also my mental health and my addictions were so far gone at that point. Even from the very beginning with Saint Asonia, I mean, I was probably awake for 3 days before that first show. So you were seeing not only the performance and stuff, but you're really seeing a beaten down guy right at the beginning of the tour. I mean, we toured for 2 years after that, but from the very beginning, I was dark, very dark. And many days struggled just to get through the day, and that was through, you know, drugs and a lot of drug use. And so yeah, that's what that was. You know, if I could go back in time, probably the performance would still be the same, but there would be maybe a little more light in my eyes than there was that day.
But now, kind of as time's gone on, like you just admitted, you know, wishing them the best and everything. Yeah. If that was the very first show and you were already kind of in that dark place, I mean, it's like you kind of can't blame them now for. I mean, you still got 2 years they put up with it, right? you know?
Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of there was a lot of resentment and sort of, well, he did this or they did that, and some of those things are true, but at this point in my life, it's not about that. It's just taking accountability for my actions, and I knew that I was a difficult guy to be in a band with at that time, and there were situations in that maybe made that harder with other people in that band, and but I would never blame anybody or put any responsibility on my stuff onto anybody else but me. So I did what I did, and I got where I got by being let go because of my behavior. So it was a great couple of years in that band. I mean, we toured the world, but man, I think back to some of the thoughts that was going through my head, the mental state I was in. And really, Bill, I was fucking crazy for a while. I mean, I was in a psychosis where I remember really distinct things that I thought that now are like insane to me, insane to me. And things that I did that, traveling across the Atlantic Ocean with drugs on me, going to Russia with drugs on me, just stuff that is so fucking insane now. And the risks that I took, and that's the power of addiction, man.
Yeah.
And it will take you out. Thank God it didn't take me out and kill me, but it took me out of my profession for a while. But I mean, that was God's will, man. I needed to be saved, and in that environment at that time. So now, I thank those guys, because I'd be dead for sure.
Yeah, and like as we've got to know each other, and hearing a lot of the stuff that you dealt with, but we talk about the insanity and how everybody hits a different bottom, and I guess them throwing you out had to be your bottom. God had to do for you what you couldn't do for yourself.
Absolutely.
To hit that bottom, and then I mean, I know you've shared with me, and you don't have to get into it on here, like some of the other things that how other people that played a role in kind of saving you and bringing you, pointing you in the right direction, and now working what we've been working. But
yeah, well, I mean, so there was a further bottom for me, just to go back on what you said there. After that happened, when I was let go, the guilt and the shame and the anger, it actually got worse, and eventually, it took finding my now wife, moving out of Canada, getting away from everything for a while, including music and drumming, and then eventually getting arrested, for my drunken fucking insanity, and then finally getting to rehab. But it was a couple of years after being let go of the band that things started to change. And I mean, of course, there's a recovery programs that me and you are in that, I couldn't do this without, I couldn't be part of this without you and guys like yourself and some of the other brothers that we got. And I need to be around you guys every day, because I know how easy it is, man, just like that, to slip back into that shit. And I did it, 100-something days ago, I drank again. So after a year or so sober, it's scary how fast something can happen. So it was only a sort of a few-hour thing, but man, I'm by no means healed or better. It has to be a daily thing for me.
Amen, dude. For both of us, like, I mean, I shared with you when we were talking yesterday that I mean, I've got 12 years sober. I wasn't working a program that long. I had many years as a dry drunk, chasing all kinds of other crap that caused me problems with my family and relationships and stuff like that. But, I've been fine with being able to go to shows and have a water and not think about drinking. I've been able to be, sometimes go back in those environments, enjoying live music and have a water without thinking about drinking. But for whatever reason, this past Thanksgiving, the anxiety of family and the anxiety of, the holidays and the anxiety of my own shame and guilt for whatever. And then, the uncomfort of certain family members or whatever, man, that thought came like, my mom's not finishing this and we're doing dishes. Why would I pour this down the sink? I had that thought to have that drink. 12 years, of not drinking. So it's like like
Crazy.
you nailed it. It's a daily thing, and it was just thankfully, I didn't. And I've talked to my sponsor, and I talked to guys like you, and I've been able to, that's the power of this brotherhood, man, is to confess that stuff and bring, like, I could have just
it
been
out.
like, well, I didn't do it, and I'm good, and then let my ego and pride just wear at me until I eventually do, and I had to bring it up and
It's
address
good.
it, man.
I like how you do that. It's not only do you admit that you thought about it, but just taking the full responsibility and being scared that you thought that way, and we talked to each other about that stuff and try to figure out what was going on that day. But you're right, man. Family can trigger that stuff. All of this, obviously, COVID and the isolation and the lockdown. I know a lot of guys that have gone out, and a few of them that have died in this last couple of years. Excuse me, because I mean, this is the worst place to be for addicts like ourselves, to be trapped, sometimes alone in our homes, where nobody's, where you can kind of get away with everything because nobody's really checking on you, or a lot of the time you don't have to be at work, So thank God that me and you came through that, and I couldn't have done that without you, but a lot of people didn't make it through this COVID.
Yeah, I know of many, here locally too in Cleveland area that went back out and haven't come back, and it's and it's like, it's not even just like being locked in our homes, dude. We're locked up here in our heads constantly with this disease, and that's why it's like we got to keep feeding ourselves the strength and positivity, the experience, strength, and hope of our brothers and stuff.
Absolutely.
And I didn't like Zoom at the beginning because I'm one of those like face-to-face handshake guys with the old timers here in Cleveland that call me on my BS and hear this stuff. So I was like, when we went to Zoom, I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get the same out of it. And thankfully, a mutual friend of ours, who I've had on here, invited me in, and then I'm like, hey, Zoom ain't so bad, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. I was the same way in the beginning. It took a while to get used to it. And now I think I prefer it. It's just being in the comfort of your own home. I mean, there is something I think important about getting around other people and talking about the stuff that we talk about in those rooms. But I think these rooms have saved a lot of people, man. And we've made so many friends. Like me and you probably wouldn't have met, without all this stuff. And I know you could agree too that we've made so many friends.
Oh,
but now we're like real friends, man, real brothers, and I'll be friends with you for the rest of my life, and we met here, so it's amazing.
Yeah, we haven't even like physically met yet,
I know.
we're planning
Soon,
it, but
soon,
yeah. But it's funny too because part of I said before we went on, and I that's what I love about these conversations, because we can just be real, and whatever the audience can, just bear with us and listen. But,
right.
I got, had an argument with my ex earlier, and the past of who I was 10 years ago keeps constantly getting thrown in my face. And as I've shared in the rooms, and I've shared on here on my podcast, I battle with anxiety, PTSD, low self-worth. This is kind of therapy for me doing this podcast, too. But everything she was saying about me was true 10 years ago. I was that person, I try not to be that person anymore, but she's like, you're always a manipulator. You're always a liar. There's always something in it for you. And back in the day, some of the friends that we've made today, man, I'd be manipulating my way into whatever,
Right.
As I worked in the promotions here locally in Cleveland and stuff like that, there was always something in it for me. Now the gift is I stayed up after our one meeting last night till like 1, listening to some stories that being a fly on the wall for, some awesome stories, and then interacting and building a relationship with some of these people that I've been like, wow, fans of, and it's happening like organically the way it's supposed to be. There's no the only thing we're getting out of it is helping build each other up now, and that's the beauty of this thing, man.
And it was, as you were saying that, I think you're talking about, your ex feeling some of those ways. I think it's hard for when people see this change in us, they're used to, in the past, the way we're acting would have would have been a fake thing, and they would have seen this good heart as a manipulating heart, because they know what fucking asshole we used to be. So if you were being nice, obviously something was going on. It's hard for people to accept as, no, we maybe have just sort of changed now. We are, this is how we are all the time. Or at least we try to be. So
Yeah.
I understand how people from our past, this new, selves that we have, is can be fishy to people, and seem not real. But the proof's in the pudding, and I think it's like living amends, they call it. Just we can only do what we can do every day, trying to do the next right thing, and hope those people pay attention. And sometimes people like your ex or my exes and stuff, sometimes they won't, and we got to learn to be okay with that and let that go too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what like my sponsor's been telling me too, just like there's just you did your part. If you're doing your part and trying to keep your side of the street clean and they're not going to accept it, man, there's nothing, you gotta just let that go,
One of the first sort of amends I tried to make to someone through the path that I'm on and the path that you're on, it was amends to my ex-wife's sister. And it was done through Messenger on Facebook because I didn't have any other way to contact her. But it was the first time I tried to really lay it out wholeheartedly. And the message came back like, basically go fuck yourself. And it was, I mean, I wasn't expecting it. And then, I was blocked. So it did, I don't know, it really stung. So when I talked to guys like yourself and some of the other guys in my life that I call my sponsor, is like you were just saying, you did your part. You made your amends to that person. You can't control how other people are going to react, and if they don't forgive, that's okay, man. That's not you've done your part. So, but it is kind of hard to accept that. You kind of want everybody to go, wow, you're forgiven and all that stuff, but man, we've done a lot of damage in our lives.
Oh yeah,
you got to accept that.
Like I said, I mean, there was many years I was a dry drunk, so it's like, yeah, I wasn't drinking, but my behavior didn't completely change. I was still doing other things. I was still being selfish and self-centered in a lot of ways. Right. So it was like, character wise, I mean, I was like on a high when I first came home, and I was like trying to do everything right, man. Like I've shared with you, not only did I get sober, I got saved. I got, I was like very involved in my church, and, so it was like this dramatic, like change almost. It's like, we got that all or nothing thing too that we deal with, So I was all this other, but then as time, not working a program really, went on, I guess I relapsed, my character relapsed. And I was, even though I didn't pick up a drink, I relapsed, with my values and some of the things I was doing and my behavior. Right. So it's like, then I did more damage, and it wasn't until finally getting in and working this program and trying, and like we say, progress, not perfection, man. But
right. For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the service you had and the experiences you had, your military experience, and just I didn't know you back then, but how far like you seem to have come, in your what's the word I'm looking for? Just your spiritual side and stuff. You can see it coming out of you. There's a light shine out of you. And like I said, we didn't know each other before, but it just definitely seems like a transformation has happened in your life, and I can see it when I talk to you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Like I've said to you too, I see, see it with you, with your humility and transparency when you share, and I shared like earlier, I wish I was showing that serenity and spirituality when my ex was attacking me, because then, I still slip and make mistakes, and I say things that I would have said 10 years ago that are not right for me to say today, and before we came on the air, I'm hugging my oldest daughter and I'm apologizing to her, and I'm saying, I'm sorry you had to hear me say that again, because I don't want to be that guy anymore, Yeah. And
that's all we can do, man, is, it's hard to, in our minds, we have this version of ourselves that we want to be, but especially when there's other people and exes involved, it's hard to not let your emotions and stuff get the better. I mean, you addressed it, and you talking to your daughter about it's amazing. And it's just hard, man. We're all struggling in that way.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad we're having this conversation. This is like for the audience, this is like the kind of talks we have as brothers trying to help each other through stuff anyway off there. So now the podcast listeners get to kind of be a part of it a little bit. But I want to get us a little bit back on track too with your story, because you went through that period where you actually went to jail. Mm-hmm. Like, when was the because you said now your wife played a role in that. You want to share a little bit about that, and then we could talk about like where things are going at now from.
When I met her, it was right. I was still in St. Asonia, and she was there when I was let go, and really was the only person, that was there for me at that point in my life. And she was also the person that taught me in my drug use and with my drug paraphernalia. And she's the one that spilled the beans to my family. And of course, just like with the band stuff, first thing I was in denial and angry about, but she stuck with me through it all. And it got worse. Like I was saying, after the band, they were getting drunk, and there was domestic stuff here that again, I was arrested for being a fucking monster. And here she's still with me. So it was after all that stuff I finally, went to rehab. And I like you talk about the spiritual stuff here as well. While I was at rehab, it was the first time I'd ever actually given prayer a try. Actually get on my knees when nobody was around and just try to have that conversation. And people talk about this thing, something happening, and it wasn't a dramatic thing, but it was a thing for sure. Something happened. Something felt different, and I can't deny that was real. So for me, everything in my life right now, in my health and my mental health, is all sort of based around spirituality. That's truly saved my life, as well as all the other things that I'm doing. It's a huge part of it. So I will go forward, and I'm looking forward to going back to do music stuff with all this, with this sort of spiritual side of myself now really being a strong side of me. And I'm talking to a lot of guys right now there's a lot more like sober spiritual dudes out there on the road than I knew, because I was always the maniacs. I was always with the fucking maniacs in that room,
Yep.
But in the other room, there was like a lot of other stuff going on too. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there whenever I do, and being a part of that, community. Because those guys, now looking back, the guys that were like that, even though I didn't know that at the time, they were always fucking killing it on stage, And that was why, they weren't up for 4 days like I was. It's everything combined, the spiritual stuff, the obviously getting help, rehab, the losing everything. It's all gotten me to be this guy right now, and I wouldn't necessarily change anything. Of course, I wish, some things were different, but I feel I'm the best version of myself that I've been in a long time right now.
Yeah, and like
I'm playing better than ever. I feel like a better musician right now as well. So.
Yeah, and I didn't know you previously, other than we've gotten to know each other through this, and it's just like, this is the guy. We've talked, man. I've said this is a guy that this is a guy I want to be friends with. I want to be brothers with. I'm inspired by. I wanted to touch on that some more, but when you went to rehab, were you and your wife already married then, or
not yet?
Okay,
no,
so
we were
so that she's been part of.
Yes.
She's been a huge part of your recovery and healing, and
definitely there the whole time from the beginning, and seeing me at my worst, but also was there, when I was touring and out there watching me play and stuff, and she saw all that good stuff as well, even though I wasn't in the right state of mind. But she's really seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly,
and loving you through it all. you know,
Yes, absolutely.
which is that's awesome, you know, and
Yeah, I don't know how, but it's amazing.
but that's the stuff like I was talking to you about, like, you know, when I see you post your pictures with you and your son Roman, you know, and I see you post the you know pictures with your wife, and you just had an anniversary and everything, and just, you know, I'm just like, man, it just fills me with joy. It motivates me to continue to on this path, to be better, have this the relationship I do with my daughters. Man, you help me,
No,
you
awesome.
know,
Thanks, man.
when I see that stuff. Your mother just being in town and you being able to connect with her and her playing with Roman and everything. It's just
Yeah,
it
unbelievable.
it's awesome, dude. So this is I'm proud to call you a brother and have you as a friend
You as
now,
well,
man.
man. Thanks. You as well, bro. You know what's funny? The other day, he on his own picked up a drumstick, and I have electric drums here in the other room, so it's not too loud in my house. But I don't know how much he's seen me do, but he grabbed some sticks, he started whacking the drums. It's like,
Nice.
man, how the hell's that working? It's like it's in
Yeah.
the DNA, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's and another thing too that I, you know, that reminds me of is, like, you know, they even at that age they watch, they're watching, and they want to do what we're doing. So what kind of
Yeah,
example are we setting? And thank God you're where you're at today, you know, so you can
yeah.
be. I mean, you're an awesome dad, dude. From, you know, from what
Thanks, man.
I see, and I try and, you know, encourage you with that. But, you know, thank
Thank
God
you.
that you're where you're at today. So he's seeing the good habits, the good things, and picking those up now. You know,
I
just
know. I'm glad he is going to know this guy, you know, and I'm looking forward to him seeing me play out there one day back on stage, and yeah, and to be healthy, and you know, that's the dad I want him to grow up with, not that old guy.
yeah.
Even though I'm actually an old guy, but not that old guy.
Yeah. But you know, so when did I know you played some uh did some work with No Resolve, that band too.
Mhm.
Like, when did that happen?
Well,
How did you connect with those guys, and when did that?
my wife actually did was asked to be in a video of theirs a few years ago, and through that, I kind of got to know at least one of the guys anyway. Where we text once in a while, and he was familiar with, you know, the bands that I had been in and stuff. And I don't know, a year and a half or so ago, they asked if I would just be in one of their videos. They needed a drummer for a video, so that was really my first reintroduction into doing anything musical. And all it was being in the video, you know, pretending to play along to one of their songs. So from there, they asked if I'd be interested in doing more stuff with them. And the thing that they're doing is there wasn't like a lot of actually playing in a band with them or actually any of it. You know, they were having they release songs, and they have guys that are working with them on songs, and they're putting videos out for their songs. And just for me, it was you know, just being a guy in the videos and doing, you know, not even your own songs and cover songs. It just wasn't necessarily the path that I wanted to be on. But I mean, it seems like they're doing great. You know, it just after all this time off from music, that didn't feel like the reintroduction that how I wanted to do it myself. But it was cool for about a year or so. We did like 4 or 5 videos, and great dudes. And
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that you didn't, like, you know, write any of the drum tracks or anything. You were just playing.
it's all computers, nothing
And
real on there.
and then you've been I mean, obviously though, still at home, that you got your set, and,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know,
I got my
stay
real drum
active.
set up down the road, and I got my electric drums here. Yeah, it's cool because drumming has become sort of like it was in the beginning. Again, it's just fun to play, and you do want to be ready if the phone rings. You know, you want to be able to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
But for now, it's just playing. I'm just enjoying playing again, and even listening to music. For a couple of years there, I stopped listening to music, and it seems like such a small thing, but it just really showed how uninspired I was. You know, but when new records come out now, I want to hear the whole record. I'm listening to the drummer play, you know, and it just excites me again. So, yeah, whatever comes next, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm excited. You know, excited for the future.
I know it was funny for me too when I got sober, because I've always been a fan of music. I can't play a lick a note for anything on anything, but I've always been, a fan, and that's why I got into promoting, I guess, so I could be involved. But I remember like so many bands, that I would either have, I'd book as openers on some of my shows or whatever, or, I'd go see all the time that I thought, oh yeah, these guys are so great. Then you get sober, like, man, what was, your ears are more clear hearing some of this stuff too. And you're like, man, I really like these guys, So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, taste changes, your ears change. And it's like, a lot of bands I grew up to now, same thing. I look back, like, man, those guys were not even fucking good musicians, but it's all about what it was at the time, I listened to some bad shit when I was a kid, some really bad metal bands that now I listen to their records. It's like, my God, but I won't say who those records are from, but
yeah, me either. I might have to have them on someday. So, but one thing that we were talking about before that I didn't realize that I just found out tonight before we went on the air, and you were going to share the story of getting in the wrestling ring with Kane. You want to share a little bit about how that came to be and how that story happened and how that went?
Yeah. It's a crazy one, man. We were asked a bunch of years ago, the WWF at the time were having a bunch of band write songs for their wrestlers. So somehow we got Kane, and I've always been a wrestling fan. So they sent us this little snippet of keyboard music that he used to walk out to, this little gothic sort of thing. And they gave us that and said, whatever you can write around that. So we just took that little intro and sort of wrote a really heavy song around it called Slow Chemical and handed it into the WWF. And sure enough, a few weeks later, for years and years and years to come, Monday Night Raw, that was his walkout music. And he'd go in the ring and put his fist down, all the pyro go off, and it was our song playing. So during that time, WrestleMania had come to Toronto. And the day before, they usually do a fanfare thing. So we were asked to come down, and that was going to be, this was actually before he'd gone out to the ring. This is when it first came out. So they said, do you want to introduce your song to the world and go into the ring with Kane, and it'll be your big intro. So we were like, man, that's fucking awesome. So we got down there. We had never met Kane before, and we were both kind of backstage, and he was going to go out first and introduce an upcoming event. So he walked by us, kind of looked down at us with his contacts and his mask on. He went out, and then the guys, whoever's working backstage, our song came on. They're like, okay, go guys. And we were like, is this fucking interview? What are we doing? Go where? What are we doing? They didn't tell us anything. So the curtain opens, and way down the ramp, Kane is standing in the middle of the ring, and we just come walk in. The crowd just stopped clapping. We're like, who the fuck are these five guys? So we awkwardly come walking. And I've never gotten into a wrestling ring before, and neither had anyone in my band. So five of the most awkward dudes climbing over these ropes, and Kane's just sitting in the middle of the fucking ring. So our singer, they only had one mic, gave him the mic, and they didn't tell us what to promote, how to promote. So he just kind of went on a rant going, yeah, we wrote this song for Kane, and I was standing beside him, and I kind of looked over at him, and he's way tall. And I just, under my breath, was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry how unprofessional this looks. These guys didn't give us any sort of heads up, And he just looks down at me with his contacts and his mask, and all I hear under that mask is oh, fuck, buddy, don't worry about it, man. Just go with it, dude. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, there's a human under there. It's just a guy. So he's just a totally nice guy, but until I was in that ring with him, all I saw was the mask and the contacts. But to have him look down at me and just to hear that voice under his mask, don't worry, dude, it's all good, man, just go with it. I'm like, holy fuck, what a trip. So yeah, it was a once in a lifetime experience to be in the ring with Kane with our song going and him talking to me like that, and all the crowd could see is his face, but beside me, he just talks like this country bumpkin guy.
Yeah. Now he's a mayor in Tennessee and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I've I've been a big wrestling fan too and followed it for like years, like when he debuted and everything. And I remember that time period when they had all these bands put do the entrance music and they put out the CD or whatever, and that was some good stuff for sure. But I've seen him in many interviews, and it's just like everybody just thinks he's just some big dumb jock wrestler, and the dude's like very intelligent,
Intelligent
and
guy, yeah.
You say he's mayor now in Tennessee, and I forget what, Knox County or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool, man. Like speaking
and
of,
throughout the years, just to finish that point, I've met a bunch of the wrestlers over the years, just because it seems like the rock and roll world and the wrestling world, there's so many guys know each other. So the guy Adam, who's the Edge, the wrestler, the Edge, he became a good pal a few years ago. He's another Canadian guy.
Yep.
And he really like let me into a lot of the ins and outs of how it works. So my first question to him was like, "Man, do those chairs fucking hurt? Are those real chairs?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, dude, those are real chairs, and they fucking hurt." So it was cool, getting to know that guy and just his perspective into the whole business of it. It's those guys work their butts off and don't always get paid a lot for it. And I mean, they deserve everything they get. But it's a long road, a long, hard road for a wrestler.
Oh yeah, and like I've people in my jujitsu team and whatever that kind of make fun of me for being a fan of that. I'm like, dude, you can't fake gravity, Gravity's real when they're coming off the ropes and slamming. That's legit. Yeah. And I was going to ask you too, because being from Canada, there's so many good wrestlers that have come from Canada. I mean, Bret Hart's like could be the prime minister up there or something.
Yeah, but he's like the Winnipeg, all those guys, the Hart family. Yeah, there's a lot of big ones. I don't know what it is about Canada. Maybe it's the cold weather. Inside beating the shit out of each other. But
you got Jericho, who does and brought the two together. He does music and wrestling.
Another great guy I've gotten to know over the years. Awesome dude. Yeah, he's doing really well with music, and what a businessman that guy is.
Oh yeah, man. I definitely looking forward to trying to get him on sometime, because I mean he does a podcast too, and I mean just like, dude, how do you schedule all this and be a family man and everything? It's just like blows me away how the busiest, one of the hardest workers in the business.
Me too.
And then you met like talking about Edge too. I mean that guy went through a horrible like neck thing that he had to retire for a while and has worked his way back to getting back out there, man. So
and one of the things he told me back in the day was that they have to pay for their travel, So not only, like you said, the gravity, those guys are flying off shit and falling, and they're traveling, 10 hours a night. Yeah. And they're not on a tour bus. They're driving themselves. So I also thought it'd be funny to pull up at a gas station and see a car with like 4 of those dudes in it. But that's how they would travel, It'd be like Edge and Kane and this guy all in like a little car, traveling down the highway to the next place. But kind of a funny thought to be able to see that. But man,
but
kills your body, and then you're not getting rest at night.
Exactly. You guys, get to get on a tour bus, and as much as you complain about the bunks, imagine having beaten up your body and then going to the next gig. Like back in the
Of course, that's why those guys, all the painkillers and stuff, all the problems those guys have. Talk about drug addiction and stuff, man. That sport is just riddled with fucking drugs and death and suicide and all kinds of horrible stuff, man. It's a hard job, and I think they party hard too. And not a lot of them live very long.
No, not at all, man. Mm-hmm. So, wanted to kind of get back with talking about you now, where you're at today. What's since you've been on this journey, and like they say, more will be revealed all the time in our program. But what's something that right now you feel that you can improve on going forward?
Man, so much. I still think communication is a hard thing for me. Is, you know, me and my wife talk about it all the time. You know, trying to communicate better. I think for so long, myself anyway, just a lot of shit going in my own mind, not properly knowing how to talk about stuff, but uh, just becoming a better communicator. Because when I do get back out there on the road in a band and stuff, a lot of the stuff that I used to hold in builds resentments and all that
Yep.
shit. And, you know, I want to be able to just really be, you know, free every day and without any of that shit. So communication is definitely something I'm always working on. And just, man, I only got today, you know, whatever. Tomorrow, I don't know. Maybe I'll be a good communicator. Maybe I'll be a bad communicator. Maybe I will be a plumber. Who knows? But it's going to be okay. Whatever it is, I'm here talking to you right now. And like you said, the future is, I don't know how you said it there, but it will reveal itself, I think you said.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm excited about what that is.
Yeah, more will be revealed, and as
Yes.
you know, also of things that we know are some of our defects, you know. But you mentioned communicating, and I like that's what's inspired me about you too. Is you've been able to communicate because us as guys, we let our ego and pride get in the way a lot of times too. Like we don't want to look weak or show, you know, vulnerability and stuff like that. But the majority of my healings happen when I've been willing to be vulnerable. And I'm glad we have the group and the environment we do where we're able to do that. And you've inspired me in that way, you know?
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah. And just like I said, my thing's always been communicating, you know, my anxiety and stuff like that. I'm still dealing with that. That's why I do this. This is kind of like therapy to help me. And then, you know,
You're great at it.
When you've had me you'd be of service last night, you know, that's the same kind of stuff like my sponsor has me do at our meetings. He's like, all right, you hate talking in front of a bunch of people. We're going to make you talk in front of a bunch of people so it becomes natural, you know, you got to
jump in the fire. Yeah.
Yep. So
that's how most things in my life have gone well, is just get thrown into it when you're most uncomfortable. And I've become okay with that. You know, if there's something I don't know how to do, I'd rather just be left alone to go do it. And if you fucking fail, at least you tried. You know, I'd rather just always be firing all cylinders forward instead of panicking. Easier said than done, of course, sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's the way I like to roll now, man. If I don't know how to do something, just let me try at least.
No, that's great too, because a lot of times I'll talk myself out of opportunities. You know, I'll in my head, I'll just, you know, I'll already convince myself that something bad's going to happen and I don't want to do it. And then I stay in that fear zone. And this is the stuff that's pushing me out of that. So I don't miss any of those opportunities to build more relationships and strengthen,
for sure,
you know, friendships and stuff. So, like, what goals do you have set for yourself going forward?
I think just obviously the father, being a dad thing is the most important, being a good role model. And I just want to get back out there on the road and be performing. You know, that's something I want to try to be doing this coming year if I can be. And really, that's my life is like being a dad and being a drummer, and I'm not doing that every day right now, but hopefully next year, you know, something's going to come up where I can be doing it every day. So yeah, it's the most important thing for me is family and taking care of that. And you know, for me to go back out again, it's got to be something that's I'm able to still be a dad. And so I don't know what that's going to be yet, and maybe it'll be nothing. That's the thing about the future. I don't know what it holds. You know, maybe something new is going to pop up in my life that I didn't know, and the music stuff will, you know, be secondary.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, usually our higher power, you know, when we get out of the way and quit, you know, he laughs at us when we have our own plans, but when we get out of the way and trust, you know, he's got something bigger that we can't see right now planned for
and
us.
That's easier said than done, you know,
for sure.
To do, you know, but I try, you know, I try. It's all of the wisdom and the just every, you know, the spiritual side of things when it comes to God and following God. For me, I understand it all, I get it all, but I sometimes have a hard time practicing it. And, you know, being at ease with it like that, you know, I want to try to drive my own fucking car and to sit back and trust in God. It's harder than it sounds, you know, so I struggle with that all the time. And that's okay. You know, that's what life's about. You're trying to become closer to God, and that sometimes takes a bit of work and to develop that relationship with him, you know. And,
Yeah. And like I was saying, I mean, like you said, dude, you nailed it, because it's the same with me. It's easier said than done. There's a lot of times I can give some advice that it's just like, that is some damn good advice I'm giving right there. Why ain't I following it? You know?
right. Yeah.
Like,
I'm the master, the king of that too, man, for sure.
It's the same thing, man. I get it, because it's like, you know, I mean, when I unpack some stuff with my sponsor about what happened on Thanksgiving, well, I see, you know, where I didn't, where I wasn't working on my relationship with my higher power as much, which might have helped, you know? So
Sometimes it's easier for somebody else to see, you know, in yourself what you can't see, whether it's your behavior and stuff. And sometimes you need someone else to sort of, you know, enlighten you on how you're acting, and you don't even realize you're doing it. And then it's so fucking crystal clear when someone points it out to you. You know, I can't believe I didn't see myself doing that.
Yep, and that's the beauty of this this group we got, this program, and having the sponsor, you know.
Yeah.
And then speaking of, like, you know, relationships and stuff, I know in the, you know, in the music business you get a lot of acquaintances, but who are some of your, like, people that you consider like your legit best friends that you've met through the years?
I've been lucky to just really get close to a lot of the rock bands that are still sort of currently out there doing well. And in the rock world, it seems like everyone's sort of trying to help each other. It's not a ton of like, I guess in the pop world, it's more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, geez, I'm just drawing a blank on what I'm talking about. Basically, there's a great camaraderie. Now that, what's that word? Camaraderie?
Camaraderie.
What's the word?
Yeah,
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the rock world. And I don't think you see that as much in other genres of music. But there's guys that I was touring with 20 years ago that I'm still friends with. And, you know, a lot of those guys are super, super successful now and still the same dudes they were then. So I've been lucky to remain friends with a lot of those guys and girls. You know, some of the more, you know, popular girls out there in the rock world are still really close friends. So, yeah, I'm lucky that way, man. I've toured with all of them, and I'm friends, you know, with a lot of them still.
Oh, that's great. And then, like, when you were playing out, did you have any like odd superstitions before a show, where you had to have, like, you know, tie your shoe, you know, left over right, or any, you know, any kind of weird things that you do to try and have your best show?
Well, I couldn't play unless I had long wristbands on. They couldn't be short ones. They have to be like the longer tennis ones, like that big. And of course, there were times when I just didn't have them, and it would fucking throw me off so much. Yeah, I had to have my wristbands every show.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, I want to ask you some of the questions that I normally ask people on here. I mean, I appreciate, man, we've had almost been on an hour so far.
Yeah,
and I
I'll
appreciate
have to jump off soon to take care of my baby.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'll just go through some of these real quick, and then I'll let you go do what you do, man. Great being a dad.
Shoot.
Who are some of your top 3 musical artists?
Like that I grew up to?
Yeah, that you still are your, like, some of your favorites today.
I mean, Michael Jackson growing up was huge to me. His music is still huge to me now. I still love his music. You know, all the other stuff, obviously, but I still listen to his records, and Thriller is still a fucking masterpiece in my eyes. Rock. I grew up to Queensryche. Still love Queensryche records. They were a big deal in my life. And Run DMC that I mentioned earlier, they got me into drumming and stuff. And yeah, the first few Run DMC records are, to me, the best hip hop there is.
Nice.
And of course, good old Metallica, man. I've been a fan of them since I was a little boy. And still never got to play with them. We were supposed to do some shows with them in Europe a bunch of years ago, and our singer got a hernia the day before we left, so we couldn't do it. But that sucked.
Oh man, bummer. And then, is there a particular song that you feel has inspired you in life? Like, whenever you're like kind of going through a rough patch or whatever, and it's just a constant on your playlist to kind of motivate you and pick you up?
Well, there's one that's sort of the opposite of that. There's one that I can't listen to for the opposite reasons. Still, I can. That's Drive by the Cars. That one brings up, if it's on the radio or something, I have to turn it off. For some reason, that song will make me bawl, because of the past and things and relationships. That one will forever be like a no for me. I love the song, but for some reason, it's the only song that brings up this deep kind of painful emotion. So yeah,
dude,
it's
I
sort
get
of the opposite
that.
of what you asked, but same idea.
Yeah, I can totally get that. Blurry from man, I'm drawing a blank.
Mud.
Yeah,
Mud.
yeah, that one kind of does it for me because of people I hurt in the wreckage of my addiction back in the day.
Right.
I
got some good West stories.
Yeah.
I'll tell you those after the interview.
Yeah. And then what's who are three people that have inspired you or you can credit for making you the person you are today?
My wife, for sure. And my mom, my dad. Of course, we had a rough childhood and stuff, but as we grow up, you sort of realize your parents are just humans too. And I don't know if I would have said that 20 years ago, but now, especially my mom was just here visiting me, and it's your parents. Whenever I saw her playing with my son there last week, it was just like I could remember myself being that age playing with her, and it's just the longest relationship you had in your life with your parents. Sometimes I know I forget that, and probably a lot of us do. But yeah, we learn the good and the bad from our family, but they're who we are.
Yeah, for sure. And then, what would you want your legacy to be? I mean, with everything you've been through, where you're at today, what would you want your legacy to be? How would you want to be remembered when you're no longer here?
The music stuff is just such a big part. I already have all the records that I've made that I hope will always be there. So I just hope there's more of those, that music will live on, and just I'd like to be remembered for, that guy on stage and performing. And of course, when it comes to family and closer knit family, I'd like to be remembered for more real things than that. But
yeah,
the great thing about music is it does last forever. When you're gone, those recordings, those songs will always exist.
Yeah, gotcha. And then are there any causes or organizations that you support and encourage others to check out?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd say out loud who. Not even because I just can't think of one. Also, but I don't know. Obviously, me and you are in a really great certain kind of program for people that are struggling with stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to push anything on anyone.
Yeah, gotcha. And then this should be a good one, although I might already know the answer, but favorite toy as a child?
You know the answer. What are you thinking it is first before I answer?
Well, I thought because you got into drums so young that you'd consider that a toy, but if there's something else, let's talk about.
Before that, I would say G.I. Joes.
Okay.
I was a GI man. I had every fucking GI Joe there was. The headquarters, the hovercraft, the jet. I had everything when I was a kid. I wish I knew where that shit went.
Yeah,
My
I
mom
know.
had a box somewhere. You know?
Worth some cash, dude. I used to have Star Wars too. You know, and
Oh
you see how
yeah.
much those are worth now, and I would bury those things in the sandbox and leave them, and you know.
Right. My brother still has the Darth Vader helmet with all the characters. It opens up and all the original characters.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
still has
yeah.
that in mint condition. So I wonder how much that thing's worth.
Oh yeah, that's like your
He'll
investment,
take
man.
that thing to
Whatever.
his grave, though.
Yeah. It's like whatever. We were, talking about crypto last night. Some of us, I think investing in Star Wars figures and keeping them in mint condition might be the safer bet.
Right.
And then we brought up GI Joe, and you brought up, I think, now didn't you share a story with me before, like playing some military bases or whatever too at one time?
Well, the best traveling experience I've ever had, really life experience, was going to Afghanistan and playing for the troops there. That was, man, I swear to God, I think about that once a day in one way or another. It was the most amazing trip, eye-opening, whole new level of respect I gained for all you guys, all of our troops, and it was just a great experience, man. Amazing.
Yeah. Because one of the questions I normally ask then is like any message that you have for our military currently serving overseas.
Man, I just thank you. It's so easy to be here and forget how just how much fucking people are risking, and their families are at home worried about them, and it's just easy for guys like me playing in some fucking stupid band to take that so for granted. And just the amount of respect I have for people that are out over there doing that for me. They don't even know me, but they're doing it for my freedom and for me to sit here comfortably in my house. And it's awesome, man. It's just all heroes in my eyes. You are a hero in my eyes, man.
Man, thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you, doing this for me tonight, taking the time, having this conversation, man. And I'm glad we got to do it, and I'm proud to call you a friend and
Me
a
too.
brother, man.
Me as well, man.
So before I let you go, though, you mind doing me one last favor?
Sure.
Cutting a promo ID for the show. Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Of course. All right. Do I say I'm rich from something, or just I'm rich?
However you want to introduce yourself.
Okay. And it's today's Boondoggle?
Boondoggle. The G.
Boondoggle, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know when.
Whenever you're ready.
Hey guys, Rich Beddoe here, former drummer Finger 11 in St. Asonia, and you're listening to my brother Bill on Boondoggle.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot, brother. And like we were talking about, we'll have you back on, and we'll tell those Bigfoot stories and talk about UFOs and all that another time.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to jump. I got the wife texting me to get up and help.
All right, brother. Thanks a lot, man.
Love you,
Take
bud.
care.
All right, man.
Love you too,
Talk
man.
soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.